Hey, morning. So I just arrived very late last night, about 2 a.m. I checked into my apartment, which is just up there, top room. And look at this amazing setup. Where am I today? Well, obviously the title of the video gives it away, but I'm in Gdansk in Poland, in northern Poland. And I want you to join me on my little journey where I get to explore Gdansk. Hello and welcome to my video on Gdansk. I'm Alex and I'm the Wandering Englishman. Today, like I said, you will find me in the Polish city of Gdansk. Now, if you didn't know already, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the city because this is what I like to do in these videos. If you haven't seen any of my videos, there's over 300 on this platform. Do check them out. Easiest thing to do is click subscribe and you'll be informed when the next video drops. But also it gives you easy access to the back catalogue of videos where I've effectively toured around mostly Europe in most of my videos, but my objective before lights out is to see the entire world, so do stick around for that. But anyway, let's get back to Gdansk, this beautiful city that you see here. Gdansk is a city on the Baltic coast of northern Poland with a population slightly under 500,000 souls. Gdansk is Poland's principal seaport and a centre of the country's fourth largest metropolitan area. The city that you see here is situated on the southern edge of Gdansk Bay on the Baltic Sea, so in the winter it can get a little bit chilly. So a little bit of an update, just as I was at the airport last night, I was at Gatwick Airport, I got a message through from bulletin on my phone, I think it was BBC News or something. Sadly, it wasn't fake news. They said that basically anyone leaving Poland after 4 a.m. on Saturday, which is tomorrow, and I'm going to be here until Monday, has to quarantine when they get back to the UK for 2 weeks. So that will be fun. But yeah, COVID is once again destroying travels, once again destroying people's lives. But let's see if we can enjoy this despite the whole COVID mess. Gdansk lies at the mouth of the Mariacka River, connected to the Mariacka. I don't think I'm saying that right, but maybe it's Mariacka, which is a branch in the delta of the nearby Vistula River, which drains 60% of Poland and connects Gdansk with the Polish capital of Warsaw. Warsaw is a city that you must visit if you've never been there. It's certainly changed over the years, that's for sure. And changed for the better, I think. Neptune's fountain made by a Dutchman in 1617. There's a definite theme in these Central European, Eastern European cities where Neptune is always around. He was someone very important to people back in the day. And given that Gdansk is a coastal city, it was better to sort of praise someone like Neptune or Poseidon, because the last thing you'd want to do is set sail and end up at his mercy. So praise him, make him look good. You might have a good trip on your boat. As you can see, tourism is in full-fledged here in Gdansk. There's no lockdown here, there was no quarantine here. Now, Gdansk's history is incredibly complex. It has periods of Polish, Prussian and German rule, and periods of autonomy and self-rule as a free state. In the early modern age, Gdansk was a royal city of Poland. It was considered the wealthiest and largest city of Poland before the 18th century rapid growth of Warsaw. In the late Middle Ages, it was an important seaport and shipbuilding town, and in the 14th and 15th centuries, it was a member of the Hanseatic League. Obviously, I'm only giving you a sort of brief rundown on the information. A lot of this information you'll find in the encyclopedia. If you want a slight left-wing bias, head towards Wikipedia. They've also got this sort of information, and you can expand on anything that seems a little alien, or you can expand on just getting that little extra detail. In the interwar period between the First World War and the Second World War, owing to its multi-ethnic makeup and history, Gdansk lay in a disputed region between Poland and Germany. Now this became known as the Polish Corridor. The city's ambiguous political stance was exploited by Germany, furthering tension between the two countries, which would ultimately culminate in the invasion of Poland and the first clash of the Second World War just outside the city limits, followed by some of the worst ethnic cleansing in man's history, with executions of the Polish population and ultimately the flight and expulsion of the German-speaking majority of the city's population in 1945 at the end of the war. In the 1980s, Gdansk was the birthplace of the Solidarity movement, which played a major role in bringing an end to the communist rule in Poland and helped precipitate the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact. So you could say the people of Gdansk and Poland are not a fan of communism. They've seen the atrocities of communism and thankfully have rid their country of the communist ideology. Gdansk is home to the University of Gdansk, the Gdansk University of Technology, and then the National Museum, the Gdansk Shakespeare Theatre, the Museum of the Second World War, and the Polish Baltic Philharmonic. The city famously also hosts the St. Dominic's Fair, which dates back to 1260 and is regarded as one of the biggest trade and cultural events in all of Europe. Gdansk has also topped the rankings for quality of life, safety, and living standards worldwide. This gate that we're walking through is called the Highland Gate, and it marks the beginning of a royal route. So usually royal processions come through this route. But today it's just going to be you and me. The city has footprints of at least 1,000 years. Archaeological evidence for the origins of the town were retrieved mostly after the Second World War, had laid 90% of the city centre in complete ruins. Thus, this enabled excavations for the archaeologists to discover a little bit more about the city and to record their findings. The oldest settlement levels were dated back to between 980 and 1308. It is generally thought that Mariacka, the first of Poland, erected a stronghold on the site in the 980s, thereby connecting the Polish state ruled by the Pius dynasty with the trade routes of the Baltic Sea. Traces of buildings and housing from the 10th century have been found in archaeological excavations all across the city. So as you can see, old meets new. These buildings here, which are actually really, really well done. Look at the balconies up here. I'm not sure if you can see this, but people can open their windows, get the fresh air, but very new modern buildings. And we've got the old buildings on this side, and this is the old city over here. We just come from this direction with the big church, but real contrast and quite phenomenal. What it reminds me of is the modern area of Oslo, and we've got this. Europe is certainly phenomenal. Due to the heavy bombardment that the city received during the Second World War, not much of the city that we see today is the original city. However, a lot of the center of the city has been rebuilt to its former glory, and some are actually saying past its former glory because now it looks even more beautiful. It's a great looking city, isn't it? It is. I mean, we've been to a lot of cities, you know, over our time. This is in certain first impressions. It is up there, isn't it? It really is. It's quite unique. And strangely, Gdansk is unique. And what is more strange, for all of my life I had avoided, not deliberately, but I've avoided visiting Gdansk because it just didn't register on my radar. Now I put that down to ignorance, I put that down to distractions elsewhere in my life, but it never really sort of clicked that I should go visit Gdansk. So I must thank my friends Scott and Kieran, who were on this trip with me, for persuading me to come visit Gdansk, because from the minute I arrived and to the minute I left, I was impressed with this entire city. It's not the biggest city in the world, and like I said at the beginning of this video, it's Poland's 4th largest city.
maybe it has the benefit that most of the city has been rebuilt since the Second World War. In a way, it was starting from scratch, but unlike a modern city that you'll find in the UK, such as Milton Keynes, this place is a thing of beauty. The lady that we just walked past there suggested drinks on the rooftop, but obviously we just had a very late brunch, so we'll probably try to head there for an evening session, I think. Here for a few days, so plenty of time to explore. The bridge that we're walking across here literally lifts up vertically so the ships can get past. And this bridge is brand new, so if you'd been here a couple of years ago, you would not have seen this bridge. I felt very privileged to be able to walk across this bridge and get this amazing view of the riverbank. And this riverbank is called the Matlawa River Embankment. Along this embankment, you'll see various shops and restaurants, mostly restaurants, but the site that you see there off in the distance that's slightly overhanging the river is the famous Gdansk Crane, or as they say in Polish, Żura. But because I'm English, I'm going to call it the Crane today. Literally any postcard that you buy from Gdansk will probably feature this crane. It's one of the defining symbols of Gdansk, and it represents what little is left of the city's great trading age. It was first mentioned in the year 1367. The original structure burnt down though in 1442, before its current design was created 2 years later back in 1444. And at one time, I think probably when it was originally built, it was one of the biggest working cranes in the world, as Clarkson would say. But it also served as a defense function and one of the gates to the city. It had a lifting capacity of 4 tons to a height of 11 meters, and this was achieved by the 2 wooden wheels that you will see inside this amazing crane. These wheels were originally powered by men literally walking along the wheels like a hamster and turning the lifting mechanism. It remained a working crane until the middle of the 19th century, and then it was 80% destroyed in 1945 in the Battle for Gdansk, when eventually the Nazis were defeated and pushed out of the city. After the war, it was rebuilt and donated to the Polish Maritime Museum. A lot of subscribers ask me, how do I plan my trips and how do I get about to so many different places? Well, one of my favorite websites is Skyscanner, skyscanner.net. On this website, I'm pretty sure that most of you will be familiar with it, but it's the one that I choose to use. And I have to say, I think it's better than Kayak, and I think it's better than Google. And in my mind, I think it's worthy of your time, especially if you're flying in Europe, because as I say, it's a European site and it seems to work better when searching for European flights. Kayak seems to work better for flights outside Europe. Not sure why, but it just seems to work out that way. But there's a link in the description. Click on the link to Skyscanner. I think, I could be wrong on this, I get a 1% kickback if you book a flight via that link. So if you spend $100 or 100 euros or 100 pounds, I get £1, €1 or $1. Every penny counts and it's greatly appreciated. If you're curious about the best places to stay in Gdansk, I'd highly recommend booking.com or also Airbnb. And now if you'd like more details on Gdansk, please refer to my website, thewanderenglishman.com. On that website you'll see this trip and many other trips just like this. It's a good place to go just in case one gets banned from here. I'm now heading north up the embankment on the west side. The plan is to find a museum. Stay tuned for that. One thing you'll notice as you walk around Gdansk, especially during the COVID period that we're undoubtedly probably going to experience for 2021 as well, the majority of people here are Polish. I know some people from more obscure countries. That shouldn't surprise them because you go to a country and you think, well, who am I going to see there? You're going to see the people from that country. But as an Englishman who lives in London, it's a pretty rare thing in London to meet any English people. So it is refreshing coming to a city like Gdansk and seeing only Polish people. Of course, post-COVID, the tourism in Gdansk is going to boom, I'm sure.
amazing bit of engineering going on over here. The whole bridge is lifted up, almost vertical, so the passing boats, not the small one, but the one with the mast, can get through. Or actually the pirate boat. It's not a pirate ship, but it really could be. And that's going to sail through in a moment as well. So amazing, amazing. So here we are in Gdansk. So a lot of my videos, I'm usually solo warrior, so I will go around the city and I'll walk the sort of 7-8 miles a day on my own, because it's very easy to do that. This time, slightly different. My compadre is over here, neither of which really want to be on camera, so I've got to respect that. And they're not big on the publicity. They're okay if they're in the background, but not they don't want to be focal points of the scene. But it does also mean I must wait for Scott's coffee breaks. This is his fourth or fifth this is his fifth coffee today, and I think it's only about 1 o'clock. So 5 coffees in so far. That's why he's always buzzing. How's the coffee, Scott?
Very good. Excellent. Could be Italy.
Once Scott had finished his fifth coffee, we continued our walk along the riverbank, trying to find the Museum of War. And this was going to be a treat, because not only is it a brand new museum, it's a highly regarded museum by locals and tourists. Highly rated on TripAdvisor. I always recommend, if you're traveling to a new place, always refer to TripAdvisor just to see what are the key sites that you should be seeing. It is an amazing little app. It works on Android and iOS, and you can have it running in the background, and it will just inform you where you probably should go. And this museum that we're about to enter is certainly one of those places. So here I am at the Kino Museum. It costs 25 Polish zloty to get in. And it basically sort of highlights the atrocities of the war. Now obviously, as I walked around this museum, I familiarized myself with the history of Gdansk and Poland. History that I think is important for no matter where you come from to be familiar with, because Poland played such a key part in the start of the Second World War and also throughout the war. Without the invasion of Gdansk and the peripheral area, maybe there would have been no Second World War. Who knows? But how did we get to that stage? Well, when Poland regained its independence after World War I, with access to the sea as promised by the Allies on the basis of Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Point 13 called for an independent Polish state, which should be assured of free and secure access to the sea. The Poles had hoped the city's harbour would also become part of Poland. However, in the end, since Germans formed the majority of the city, with Poles being a minority, for example in the 1923 census, 7,896 people out of 335,000 gave Polish as their native language. The city was not placed under Polish sovereignty, except in the accordance of the First World War Treaty, it became the Free City of Danzig, or as the Germans would say, the Freie Stadt Danzig, an independent quasi-state under the auspices of the League of Nations, with its external affairs largely under Polish control. Poland's rights also included free use of the harbour, a Polish post office, a Polish garrison in the Westerplatte district, customs union with Poland. This arrangement was inspired by the history of the city, which for hundreds of years was part of Poland, with which it had shared economic interests, thanks to which it flourished, and within which it enjoyed wide autonomy. This of course led to considerable tensions between the German administration and the Republic of Poland. The Free City had its constitution, national anthem, parliament, government, It issued its own stamps as well as its own currency, a little bit like Transnistria. And if you were curious about Transnistria, I made a video about Transnistria back in 2017. The link is up there in the top right hand corner. It's a country not recognized by other countries, but broken off from Moldova and just to the west of Ukraine. Now, as you come to realize the Poles were a minority in their own city, we can start to realize why the Germans invaded the city. In the early 1930s, the local Nazi party capitalized on pro-German sentiments, and in 1933 garnered 50% of the vote in parliament. Thereafter, as the Nazis were in control, the German government officially demanded the return of the Danzig, which is what the Germans would call Gdansk today, along with the extraterritorial highway through the area of the Polish corridor for land-based access from the rest of Germany. Adolf Hitler used the issue of the status of the city as a pretext for attacking Poland, and in May 1939, during a high-level meeting of German military officials, explained to them, "It is not Danzig that is at stake. For us it is a matter of expanding our Liebrandstrom in the east," adding that there will be no repeat of the Czech situation, and Germany will attack Poland at first opportunity, after isolating the country from its Western allies. After the German proposals to solve the three main issues peacefully were refused, German-Polish relations rapidly deteriorated. Germany attacked Poland on the 1st of September after having signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, which included a secret part regarding the division of Poland and the Baltic states between the two countries. In late August, after postponing the attack 3 times. So on the 1st of September, the German attack began in Danzig with the bombardment of Polish positions at the Westerplatte by the German battleship and the landing of German infantry at the peninsula outnumbered Polish defenders at Westerplatte. They resisted for 7 days before running out of ammunition. Meanwhile, after a fierce day-long fight on the 1st of September 1939, defenders of the Polish post office were tried and executed, then buried on the spot in the Danzig quarter of Zaspa in October 1939. In 1998, the German court overturned their conviction and sentence, a little bit late by then, I would say. However, it gave their families some peace. And this is what's strange. This is how I think of Eastern Europe. The first time I ever saw Eastern Europe, the streets were similar to this. You still see them in places like Prague and Warsaw, but you certainly don't see these sort of streets now in Gdansk. A wonderful sort of museum exhibition. The city was officially annexed by Nazi Germany once the invasion was complete. Many citizens were separated and the Jews were put into certain quarters before many were sent off to be murdered, to either be given hard labor or murdered. Hitler's mistake came in 1941 when he ordered the invasion with the Soviet Union. This eventually caused the fortunes of war to turn against Germany. As the Soviets advanced in 1941, the German populations in Central and Eastern Europe took flight, resulting in the beginning of one of the greatest ever population shifts. After the final Soviet offensives began in January 1945, hundreds of thousands of German refugees converged on Danzig, many of whom had fled on foot from East Prussia. Some tried to escape through the city's ports in a large-scale evacuation involving hundreds of German cargo and passenger ships. Some of the ships were sunk by the Soviets, including the Wilhelm Gustave. In the process, tens of thousands of refugees were killed. So the problem is, I'm not really able to appreciate this exhibition as well as I'd like to because I'm forced to wear a muzzle. I keep getting told to put the muzzle back on. It's not broken, you just can't sit down. This beautiful city also endured heavy Allied and Soviet air raids. Those who survived and could not escape had to face the Soviet army, which captured and heavily damaged the city on the 30th of March 1945. What followed was some of the largest scale rapes seen in modern day Europe and looting of private residences that were still intact. After the war, the city was integrated back into Poland, and any of the Germans left in Gdansk were expelled, or if they hadn't already fled.
So that was the museum about the Second World War and the build-up to the Second World War. During the Second World War, with all the sort of atrocities, and then the sort of end of the Second World War. An immense museum. I mean, the only problem was there were a couple of muzzle fascists wandering around demanding people put on the muzzle. Other than that, worthy of a visit. It's probably worthy of about 2 hours of your time.
The monument that you see here, this impressive stone monument that you see here, is the monument to defenders of Polish Gdansk. It commemorates the victims of the 1308 massacre carried out by the Teutonic Knights. Now, the story goes that in 1308 the town was taken by Brandenburg and the Teutonic Knights when they restored order. Subsequently, the Knights took over control of the town. Now, primary sources record a massacre carried out by the Teutonic Knights against the local population of 10,000 people, which is slightly strange because only a few decades earlier there was only supposedly 2,000 people living in Gdansk. Maybe they came from elsewhere and maybe there was an exaggeration in the numbers. However, all we know, it was a massacre and many locals died at the hands of these knights. Certainly no honour there. The events were used by the Polish crown to condemn the Teutonic Knights in a subsequent papal lawsuit, hence the reason we remember them with this monument.
So it's morning, and last night was a very heavy night, hence the sunglasses. And today is a new day. It's actually a celebratory day, hence the reason it was a little bit of a heavy night last night. What's the celebration? A new year, actually. Not a new year of this planet, but a new year for myself rotating around the sun. I won't say how old I am. I'm getting too old. One thing that's slightly different about when you're traveling with other people, you miss out on all the intricacies when you're traveling. For example, this is look at this beautiful street. Now I'm out here on my own because I'm just about to go meet the guys. But you do get distracted when you're having fun with other people. It's obviously more productive when you're on your own. You'll see more of a city, but at the same time you'll miss the sort of shared times that you experience. But my hope is today that we're going to see a little bit more of the city, a little bit more than the bottom of a beer glass, that's for sure. Hopefully the breakfast or brunch that's going to sort me out now is going to sort of set me up for the rest of the day. But what a beautiful place. Look at this. You can see the incredibly massive brick church over there, or cathedral, which we'll be going in later. And look at this street. This is why Europe is amazing. Look at what they make out of the drain pipes. This is a standard drain pipe. Well, look at this. That's quite exceptional, I think. Quite exceptional. But let's go have a look. One of the prettiest cities I've ever seen in Europe, it has to be said. And I have been all over Europe, as you know from a lot of my videos. You'll have seen a lot of those journeys. This is an exceptionally beautiful place. I think I'm going to mute myself now as it's getting a bit windy. think this is a Scottish bar. Scooter. I'm not sure that's how you say it, but Scotland to an Englishman.
Alright, thanks. Cheers.
I've gone for the Polish version of the English breakfast. Not quite, not quite how it was in Cork or London or something. This is the Polish version, full English. Careful. The old, okay, the old city walls. Dude, let's go on one of these. We'll see more in a quick amount of time. Obviously, a great way to get around any city is to you want to do it in pace, and you don't want to use your legs because you might be a little bit hungover like we are today. You want to use the Bolt scooters. Now, as you know from a lot of my videos, a lot of different companies offer these scooters. Bolt just being one of the companies. It's similar to I think there's an Uber scooter, but there's many different scooters. If you want the discount code for these Bolt scooters when in Gdansk, use my code in the video description and it will get you a free ride. So easy, just use that code, sign up with the app, point, and off you go. Just make sure you don't fall over and blame it on me. Go for it, go for it. Whoa. Oh no, I'm gonna have to put this camera away. So he has his horse, Kieran has his scooter. It's actually quite a good way to get around. The only problem is you're you're probably not capturing it all. I can't hold this at the same time as driving, riding this scooter. The roads are very cobbly, so you tend to be vibrating the whole time. Jankawi. The residents of Gdansk have a fondness for these red bricks. Pretty much everything in the old town is made of these red bricks. And the church is over here to markets over here. And I think that is a market. We're going to go just basically exploring, and let's go. All right. I don't want to. Okay. Oh yeah. Whoa! You want to go as fast as possible on this bit? Whoa! I can't hold the brakes, there's someone in the way. Okay. There we go. It's a bit of speed though. Doing 24. Yeah. I gotta put this away because it's blocking my brakes.
I would probably be wise to invest in a better camera setup because filming on a scooter is nigh on impossible with my equipment.
So this is called the Park Świętopelka. Obviously saying that completely wrong, but look at this fine chap. Powerful, powerful soldier. Someone would probably tell me that this is Polish King Arthur or something. I'm sure he's certainly looks impressive, that's for sure.
So this magnificent building that you see here is St. Mary's Church, although to the Poles it's known as Basilica Mariacka. As I say that, Mariacka is Mary in Polish. It's a brick Gothic Roman Catholic church, and it has a volume somewhere between 185,000 and 190,000 cubic square meters. It is thought to be one of the 2 largest brick churches in the world. I could be wrong on this, but I think the San Petronio Basilica in Bologna is slightly bigger than this one. However, please correct me in the comments. All I know is this is a magnificent Catholic church. Although once it used to be Lutheran, between 1536 and 1572, the Roman Catholics shared it with the Lutheran services. And this continued right up until 1945. It was considered the 2nd largest Lutheran church in the world. It is 105.5 meters long and has a nave of 66 meters, that's 217 feet. Inside this church, there's room for 25,000 people. And I can tell you the Poles are really into their religion, so I have no doubt that this gets filled frequently. According to historians, there's been a church on this site since 1243, and the foundation stone for this cathedral was put in place back in 1343. St. Mary's Cathedral was sadly incredibly badly damaged in the final years of the Second World War. Basically, when most of Danzig, what is now Gdansk today, was destroyed when the Red Army basically stormed through Gdansk, ridding the town of the Germans. Apparently the wooden roof was completely burnt, 14 of the large vaults collapsed, windows were completely destroyed, and apparently in places the heat was so intense from the flames that bricks actually melted. However, it wasn't soon before the Poles decided to reconstruct the place. The roof was reconstruction began in 1946. The roof was rebuilt in 1947, and by 1955, this cathedral was ready to go. The church became a basilica when Pope Paul VI gave it that dignity in 1965. There were only 2 bells in St. Mary's Church. To an Englishman, that's surprising for such a large church, because even the smallest churches in England generally have multiple bells, whereas this one just has 2 very large bells, but they weigh an absolute ton. One is called the Glata Die, and it weighs 7,850 kilograms. And the other is called the Ave Maria, and that weighs 2,600 kilograms. And I have to admit, it's a church that the Poles should be very proud of. It's worthy of anyone's time.
I don't know if I'm able to get across on camera the size of this thing. This is not your traditional church that you would see in Europe. This is certainly unique. Just the way it's been built with the bricks from the outside and the plasterwork inside. It makes it incredibly unique. Whoa. Okay, a little bit out of breath. What's up here? The roof of the church. Look at this. Oh look, we got some more steps. Is this directed at you, Scott?
Where's Jeremy?
Well, no. I'm yellow. Why don't they have elevators?
Yeah, I know.
Feminist fight club. There's a lot of strange. The wind. Oh shit. Holy crap.
Wow.
Made it.
Yeah, great.
So out of breath. So we made it a little bit out of breath, a little bit blustery up here, but what an incredible view. Here's the museum we went to yesterday, Big Wheel.
As I found myself on top of this cathedral, this immense cathedral, one of the things I did find myself wondering as I looked around in all directions, I noticed in the distance you can see the port, the portal area of Gdansk. Now, back on January the 1st, 1959, something happened at the port of Gdansk, and to this day it's still a mystery. If you have any interest in ufology, which I do, then you'll know that this is Poland's Roswell. According to reports, a metallic craft crashed into the basin of the port. 2 EBEs were discovered on the nearby shore and then taken into the depths of the Soviet Union. Whether this is true or not, who really knows, but I like to think that it is true.
So there we go, we just got down to the bottom of the tower, and I'll be honest, going up, not such a problem. It was about 300, 350 steps, actually probably 400. Going down, the steps got narrower and narrower, and the reality, I've got size 12 UK feet, that's size 13 feet. So your feet are hanging off these incredibly slippy steps. So the last 50 steps, I'll be honest, after a heavy night, a bit of a super hangover. That was a little bit hairy on the way down. So if you've got a little bit of a issue with heights, you've got big feet, make sure you're not hungover. But other than that, amazing, really worth it. It was 10 Polish zloty, and that's about £2, so probably around about $2.50 to go all the way to the top of, I think, that. Honestly, very, very, very cool view. It gives you perspective on the city. I hope it gave you that perspective. This is a beautiful fruit market, the one where we saw when we were on scooters. Beautiful little place. Selling everything from fruit to honey to flowers. Nice little place. You can see all this traditional brickwork. All very much the character of this place, all this traditional brick. This pickled Rick. Pickled Rick!
I'm Pickle Rick!
So first impressions of this city, almost represented by this little fountain. And it's a beautiful fountain with brass sort of horse heads. The city is incredibly beautiful. Maybe everyone knew about the city apart from me. Maybe it was just my blind ignorance that just didn't draw me to the city for many, many years. And I've now discovered what a wonderful, wonderful place. This is truly phenomenal. I've managed to spend over 24 hours here. Lucky for me, I've got another 2 days here, so I will hopefully be taking in a lot more of the city. But just in terms of representing this tiny little strip of land where there's benches and people sitting down and monuments, and we've got beautiful churches over here and more churches over here, red buildings everywhere, red brick buildings everywhere. This is the kind of city you could happily come with friends, you could come on your own, you could come as a couple, you could come with your family, and you honestly wouldn't be disappointed. The selection of restaurants is phenomenal. The city feels incredibly safe. I've spotted no trouble whatsoever so far. Of course, as soon as I go around this corner, I'm going to get mugged. That's not going to happen. This is a very Polish city. It feels for once like unlike in large parts of Western Europe, you're surrounded by people that care about their city, that care about their country. And what a wonderful, wonderful city. Anyway, let's continue. There you go, even free now. The taxi company has one of these scooters. Use the link below, you'll get a free ride with free now.
It was around here on this street that my friends and I experienced a large chunk of the Gdansk nightlife. Now, because cameras are highly inappropriate at night time, I'm just going to splice a few shots of what happened.
Notice these drain pipes again. They seem to have this big fascination with drain pipes. The dragon-themed drain pipes. Now, some people who are into symbolism would suggest that the dragons symbolize other things. You only have to listen to David Icke to understand what he might think. But incredible, ignoring the symbolism. These buildings are phenomenal. And just so we don't miss out every company, these guys at IGO, use the link below, another free ride. So that's potentially three rides you can get simply by watching this video. This is what Antifa stands for, the organization that Joe Biden basically says is just an idea. This is their idea.
Antifa is an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia.
and there's one over here that actually says "Kill the Rich." Violent organization, domestic terrorists, whichever country they're based, but sadly, Antifa are in every single country. Generally basement-dwelling left-wingers, and I know I get disliked whoever sees that, but I'm not a fan of them, as you'll see from most of my videos. Remember I first mentioned them in the video about corners, and everywhere you go in Europe, Antifa are around. Do not tolerate them.
A lot of my friends and subscribers say I should keep politics out of my travel videos, but if you really think about it, our history is shaped by politics. All of these buildings that you see came about because of the politics of the time.
Something is about the city, the dragons with the snouts, and the drain pipes. Amazing. I think that used to be a prison, but sadly the museum is closed right now, the Museum of Amber. They seem to have amber museums all over the world, but I think what it used to be was probably far more interesting than what it is now. But you can see the old handcuffs inside. Simply everywhere you look, there's something to look at, honestly. Tourist Information Centre. Who needs that when you have this video? There's some very busy roads dividing the city, this being one of them. I saw from the church that we were up on, this is over here, the big shopping centre. I'll be honest, I'm not so inclined to be traipsing around the TK Maxx's, basically discount outlets, and the different shops. If you're so inclined and you want to do clothes shopping, that's the place to be going. I think I'll go back, meet my compadres, and get on with the festivities. But honestly, look at this. Look at this. Wow. Institute et Pietas du Sant Olegno Rom Hominum Fundamenta. Wow. Also, best advice, there's a lot of taxi ranks around here. A friend took a taxi when he was last here and he ended up getting ripped off. Now, I'm not suggesting all taxi drivers are like that, but you'll save yourself any bother simply by using Bolt or Uber. Both work here. Found that Bolt is slightly cheaper than Uber, but it depends on the time of day because of the surges and everything. See, what you'll find is there isn't a single boring street. Every street has these unique buildings on them. Look at every building, multicolours, and incredibly unique. This is certainly putting, in my mind, Gdansk on the map when it comes to originality and it comes to just being different to anywhere else in Eastern Europe. This now is inspiring me to go and try and see every single little city in Poland, because I feel this country has so much to offer. Wonderful people, really wonderful people. Some of the bravest people you ever meet. Some of the bravest fighters and pilots were Poles in the Second World War. And if it wasn't for the brave Polish people standing up against the Nazis, there's a chance the war could have ended very differently. Some of the most successful pilots that fought for the Royal Air Force were actually Polish. And those that managed to escape the sort of tyranny of the Soviets, because the Soviet occupation in Poland, and you also had the Nazi occupation in Poland. The country was effectively split, but obviously when the Nazis were pushed out eventually, the country then underwent more tyranny because the Soviets then took over. But those that managed to not be captured and head towards the Allied forces, many of them signed up to the Marines and the British Army and also the French Army, and they just fought side by side. And without the Poles, Europe could be a very, very different place. The Poles, very fine people, incredibly fine people, in fact. So this is a Gdansk breakfast, 25 Polish zloty, not bad actually, not bad at all. Bit of eggs, scrambled eggs, cheese, hams, salads, breads, butter, filtered coffee. Can't really complain. Oh, and a bit of smoked salmon, can't forget that. So what I've learnt about travelling with friends, especially when there's celebrations to be had, one of my friends also had a birthday. So you can imagine slightly hectic. You're going to destroy yourself, unless of course you're one of the sensible people that travel and you don't drink. But that's never me, and Gdansk is conducive to a perfect weekend break, I think. And I think I think 2-3 days here is perfect. You know, it is a magnificent city, and you know, the thing that's probably going to be etched in my memory are the symbolism of these guys. They're everywhere. It's sort of the drain pipe, water comes flooding out to the street. They certainly do like their drain pipes. These ones have actually got drain pipes coming out of their mouths. It's not too bad, eh? This place where the pigeons like to sleep is called King Arthur's Court. This wonderful building, which is literally just in front of the statue of Poseidon, aka Neptune. Well, it's a museum, and I think it's a maritime museum. The sad thing is, I'm here on a Monday. Monday, the museum is closed. I didn't know that until I just arrived. But for the lucky people that decide to come here on a Tuesday, it's free to get in. All other days you have to pay a small price, but closed on a Monday, working 10 till 4 most days, and free on a Tuesday. Oh well, mask compulsory as well. Speaking of masks, I had a little bit of a problem in the place I just had breakfast. The waitress was very insistent that mask must be worn at all times when I'm not drinking my coffee. So even between coffee sips, she was wanting me to put the mask on. I told her to stop being ridiculous. But this is the madness of the world that we're living in right now. The thought that you're not spreading the virus while you're drinking a coffee, but as soon as you stop drinking the coffee, you're spreading the virus. Craziness, total craziness.
On my last day in this fantastic city, Monday, as you just got told by my live persona there, I decided I would literally go and take in the sort of outskirts of the city. So I had to sort of exit the old city walls and just go to see what life was like as we move away from the old historical parts. The quickest way to do this, I found, is if you jump on one of the scooters, which is exactly what I did.
So on the outskirts of the city, this is slightly to the southeast of the centre, or pretty much the east. You'll notice that buildings are a bit more sparse. Restaurants are a hell of a lot cheaper. We're seeing prices for half the price of what is in the centre. That's a good trick when you're out travelling and you want sort of cheaper eats. Back on the scooter, different one this time, lime. Very good scooter. Honestly, I can't recommend these scooters enough. If you've got only a little bit of amount of time and you want to explore the city super fast and you want to go around these busy intersections and you want a little bit of freedom that you don't get in the taxi, then great. I mean, they're not super cheap, but they're affordable and well worth sort of, the time that it takes to sort of scoot around the city.
Honestly, thank you very much for watching this far. I know it's an incredibly long video, but I think Gdansk is well worth the time and energy spent on this video, and it's well worth your time visiting. If you like this content, give it a big thumbs up. If you disliked it, double tap that dislike button and leave a comment telling me what you didn't like about it. But hopefully and sincerely, I'll see you in the next video. So until next time, I am Alex and I am the Wandering Englishman. Keep progressing.